time it is!
Welcome to the C-Squared Hour. Thank you for joining me for another rousing edition of me arguing with the voices in my head. I appreciate you all joining me. For tonight's post-World Series special, I am drinking what is called Send It Pale Ale, coming from the Iron Horse Brewery out of Ellensburg, Washington. So, obviously, after my last request, people have figured out what to do, go a little more local, and I might have a chance of getting free beer, so I appreciate that greatly. But yeah, it's very good. It's made with Citra, which is a trademark, so I've been looking around to figure out what the fuck that is. It's one of the hops apparently, but yeah, it's actually really good. Iron Horse Brewery, if you're in the Northwest, you've probably seen Irish Death flying around. That's the biggest one they do. But yeah, definitely check it out if you're looking for something lighter than that. Send It Pale Ale. Definitely recommend it. Now, before I get started, a lot of you are probably wondering where the other Chris is. And he's actually doing me a pretty big favor right now. I have been against these dumb grocery store dividers, those little plastic things that you put in between your groceries, to separate one person's groceries from another. I've been against those, since I can remember. And here's why. It's just another way of trying to avoid people having any sort of contact with another person. It's like I said with the mask thing. It's like I said with, going computerized everything. We're trying to have people be in their own world. We're trying to avoid having to talk to other people. They're trying to make us avoid interactions with other people. And this is a real easy way. You could just continue to have slight interactions with other people. Just slight. The cashier says, "Hey, is this yours?" And you look at the person behind you like, "Oh, no, that's not mine. This must be theirs." And you have a small little chuckle and you go about it. Anyway, so I've been against those goddamn things since I can remember, quite honestly. And he actually went, and I didn't know this was the thing, but he actually went to the Grocery Baggers Union conference in Branson, Missouri. Which is, great. I hear Branson's a real good place if you're a 56-year-old widow, but besides that, not that great of a place to go. So I don't even think Yakov is still working out of there. But yeah, he actually went down there to protest with me and or for me, I guess you could say. He's down there protesting those dividers, and I appreciate it for him. So if that's so if that's where you're wondering where he is, that's where he's at, and I appreciate it greatly. Before I get too far into this, I just want to let my loyal listeners, all 12 of them, know that I still not have heard a response from my good buddy Randy about the offer to step in the ring. I've been trying. I've been putting it out there. I've even started doing a new hashtag. So if you share this or if you listen to it, make sure to get the hashtag Lace Them Up. Hashtag Lace Them Up. Get that going around. I'll be sharing it with this episode, obviously. Get that going. Let's see if he can. Let's see if he's willing to at least answer the dozens and dozens of listeners to my show and their requests. And anyone who was polling for Tampa Bay tonight, I'm doing this Tuesday the 27th, so I'm literally just got done watching Game 6 with the Dodgers winning. If anyone was polling for the Tampa Bay Rays, you should be a lot harder on his ass. Just because he texted me in the middle or in between the 8th and the ninth, before Tampa even got up in the ninth. And he sends me a message that says, shit doesn't look good for Tampa. Dude, it's fucking baseball. You don't say shit like that. You don't say the word no-hitter until a pitcher gets until someone gets a hit. Even before the goddamn game. And I understand he's not the most intelligent guy, so he's just starting now to try to follow baseball. And he doesn't understand that. But really, once he texted that, the Rays had no shot. And so if you were pulling for the Rays at any point of this playoffs, or definitely the World Series, and you're looking for someone to blame, minus Kevin Cash, minus, the inept hitting, minus all that stuff, look at Randy's way, because he definitely had more to do with that than I think a lot of things. So, an interesting note, because I got another, one of these dumbass, chain, oh, your podcast would be great for a network, obviously from another country. So I was looking into it a little bit, and I was noticing there are some funny numbers here. Apparently, I have 8 listeners in Belgium, 10 from India, 6 from Ireland, 3 from the Philippines, and 1 from each Russia, Australia, the UK, and the Netherlands. So what I've been trying to do since I looked up those numbers is I'm trying to figure out what country these scams are coming from. Definitely you look at the top three suspects, and you got India, you got Russia, and you got the Philippines. Definitely places that would. You hear a lot of online scams coming out of. Philippines tends to be women, India tends to be men for some reason, and Russia tends to be money. So we got those going on, and then you got to look at how they didn't add punctuation or didn't add certain connecting words and things like that. So I'm starting to think that it's probably India, which means either there's plenty of people in India who are trying to scam money for me, or trying to get me to fall in love with a dude. Because catfish women come from the Pacific Islands, where catfish men come from India. So they're either trying to get me to fall in love with a dude and marry him and bring him over here, 90-day style, or they're trying to get the money thing, which they're obviously working for Russia if they're doing that. So anyway, to my 10 listeners in India, if 1 out of 10 of you aren't fake listeners, I very much appreciate your listenership. So with that being said, I am doing this after the World Series is over. Game 6 just finished up. I watched that and a little bit of the postgame. Postgame's still going on. I watched it till they interviewed Kershaw, and then I came in here to start recording. And a few takeaways from the series. Well, if you look at tonight, by the time you see this, you're going to see every place blaming Kevin Cash for taking Blake Snell out of the game in the 6th. After he gave up only his second hit of the game, and he seemed to be pitching pretty well. Well, here's the problem. You got Kevin Cash as a Moneyball manager. You got him in there to basically look at all these goddamn numbers. And so what you look at when you're looking at how he's pitching is he's been dog shit awful this year, 3rd time through the lineup. Right? You also have lefty on righty, him facing Betts. Another check in the take him out column. Those might be the only two, and the guy in the bullpen, you have righty on righty. So any Tampa Bay fan who is upset, or any fan who didn't want LA to win it, you got to remember, you got to dance with the one you brought. And you got to the playoffs, you got to where you're at playing this Moneyball style, this pitcher, this, look at the numbers, look at all this opener nonsense, this, you got there with all that. So you dance with who you brought. That's who Tampa brought. And while I don't agree with it, there's a lot of shit I didn't agree with. There's a lot of shit I don't agree with in baseball. I wouldn't have taken Snell out. However, in some of these massive goddamn shifts, I would have push bunt against the shift and get base runners and make fucking, especially when you're down 2, as Tampa Bay was. I mean, get fucking base runners. I mean, you let a guy who's pitching on 2 days rest basically just go out there and cruise with no one going on. But you can't have it both ways, baseball fans. You can either love the analytics part of it, and then Snell has to come out, or you hate the analytics part of it, and Snell stays in, but then you have to get rid of all the switches and stuff like that. However, I don't blame that move on the loss. I mean, with a lineup like that, you can't expect to hold the Dodgers to 1 run or to 0 runs even. You can't, with a lineup like that, with all the moves that get made, especially in the playoffs, there's no goddamn way the Dodgers aren't scoring a run in a World Series game. So point the finger all you want. The numbers and the pages say Kevin Cash made the right move. Nowadays, you look at how baseball's turning, you look at, the Craig Counsels, the Oakland. People want managers based on paper. That's what they hired for. That's what they're looking for, and he managed based on paper. You can't say, hey, manage all, get us to the playoffs, get us to this managing strictly on paper, and then, no, now game 6, now forget everything you've done all fucking year, and, do it the way. So I have a hard time blaming Cash for it. I still think the Rays lose even if they keep Snell in the game and he gets out of that inning, just for the fact that they couldn't fucking get anyone on base. They couldn't get any runs. You have a first inning home run, and that's the only thing that fucking happened. You can't beat the Dodgers. I mean, you look at game, what was it, game 5, game 4, where they won just absolutely batshit crazy, where it was they're fucking, I have that written down here. Game 4 looked like the fucking Little League World Series at the end of it, with four different people having the potential of ending the game and just get booted all over the place. That's how you fucking win in the playoffs. It's scratching across runs. It's dog shit like that. So while the analytics will get you, and I saw similar comments to this, the analytics and the Moneyball system will get you to the playoffs. It's you're never going to win a 7-game win or die series with it. You're just not. Eventually you're going to run into shit like this where you have too good of a hitting team, you have too good of a defensive team where the analytics aren't going to match up. And so basically the point I'm trying to make here is, any of you who are blaming Kevin Cash for the loss are fucking morons. Because the reason he went out there, and for you non-baseball fans, he was the manager of the Tampa Bay Rays. The reason he went out there to pull him was the fact that that's how he got the job, and that's how he got them to the playoffs, was that sort of managing off paper, not off the game. I would like to ask who the last true, if there ever has been one, the last true analytic team to win a World Series was. I mean, you would think Houston, but even Houston had, was willing to bunt, was willing to move guys over, was willing to, look at game situation rather than just paper. They say the 2004 Red Sox won based on that theory, but I mean, really, if you look at it, it was, 2004, they beat the Yankees by working walks and stealing bases. So that goes against all that nonsense. So I would love to see, and, hopefully with my word getting out there, I would love to manage a Major League Baseball team and just say, hey, look, they're going to, every time they shift, you're bunting it the opposite way. All right. Make them soft shifting on you. And then once they stop shifting, then you do your pole hitting, then you do all that nonsense. But make them play you straight up. They tried the shift with with Ken Griffey Jr. all the time, and he would just fucking hit one. He would just slap one the other way, or he would bunt one down the third base line. I don't know how many times I saw them try to shift on him, and he would just do that. And then, I mean, granted, he's possibly, when healthy, the best five-tool player of all time. So he gets on base, and he has a very good opportunity of getting to third within the first three pitches. But and this might be me being a old sports soul, if you will, but I don't see analytics working in the long run, and I don't see. I mean, even look at the Dodgers last two wins in the series. It's been about scraping runs. It hasn't been about this, home run or strikeout sort of thing. It's guys advancing on a pass ball, or a weak ground ball that he reads, and he's on a secondary lead. I'm going way too baseball nerdy. What I'm saying is, before you blame Kevin Cash, look upstairs into the owner's boxes. He did exactly what they hired him to do, and because it didn't work out in this game, all of a sudden now it's a goddamn problem. And I don't see any. Actually, I've seen like 4.5 people, say something like that. But so I am watching TV in the background, and my screen just froze, and it froze for a commercial for a show. And where it froze was an African American gentleman with about a 12-pack with his button-down shirt halfway opened. So I just look over and I see muscular African American gentleman spread his button-down shirt and, soft lighting. So that was distracting. So that'll get me. I guess if you want another way for me to move through, there we go. What's a good way to change topics? I know. Let's freeze on an African American gentleman with a shirt off. So, another thing that I came to really realize in this World Series is I really want to hate Mookie Betts. Just for the simple fact, you sign that huge contract, you go from Boston to LA, two teams I'm not a big fan of, and you're that talented. I'm supposed to hate the guy, but every time I hear him talk, I like the guy more and more. So I was a little torn on that one. Now, here's the thing I want to bring up, and this might not get brought up in a lot of other places, but I golfed with a guy who was a professional bowler. And during the offseason, Mookie Betts has been known to show up to professional bowling tournaments and actually qualify and get on TV and finish in the money. What I'd like to know, and if you know any, because it's been talked about, that C Squared does approve professional bowling. We enjoy it ourselves. So what we'd love to know is if when a guy like Mookie Betts shows up, a guy who is talented enough to get on TV and get on these things where you've been working your whole life, and he's fucking making $300 million. What is it like to know that guy is showing up and getting one of your checks while you guys are fucking palling around fucking Des Moines, Iowa, through all these things? That I tried to ask that to a guy I golfed with. Unfortunately, we were both a little intoxicated. It was after our men's club championship, and neither of us had a chance of winning, so we were pretty out of it. But I really wish I could hate Mookie Betts, but he seems like a nice guy. He's going bald just like me, so I got that, so he's got that battle for him. So that's pretty cool. And once again, as a Mariners fan, we realized that we drafted the wrong Seager. We get the fucking 5'3" one who, great third baseman, great hitter, but we can't get the 6'5" guy who could hit 400 in the World Series. It's just, it's disheartening is what it is. Once again, as a Seattle fan, we draft not only not only do we draft the wrong one, the we take the older brother, not the little brother. Christ, we get the fucking bald one. Jesus, if you look at it, fucking Corey Seager has goddamn hair. Kyle Seager's been bald since they brought him up. And Corey Seager's what, 7 years in the league? And he fucking still has glorious locks. I mean, so not only do we draft the wrong one talent-wise, we draft the wrong one fucking genetics-wise. 6'5" with a full head of hair while we're looking at 5'8", bald as shit. Typical Mariners move. Yes, I know. I'm going to get serious here for a little bit. Kyle Seager's never got a chance to show what he could really do in the playoffs. And in fact, if you look at his analytic numbers, runs saved, and yes, okay, we get it. But for the sake of argument, Seattle drafted the wrong one. Now, here's the hope. Because we got to be coming close to Corey Seager's... Actually, this is a terrible idea. But what I was going to say is come close to Corey Seager's free agent year. And if you want to know what that means in baseball, go ahead and look it up. I'm not here to educate any of you. But if you're coming close to that, maybe Seattle signs you and you have a Seager left side of the infield. Who knows? Probably a terrible fucking idea, but it's something. At least they'll get asses in the seats. You're not doing that with the current lineup. So what else do I got on the World Series? Yeah, I already talked about Game 4. Again, you dance with the one you brought. I mean, that's why Snell got pulled. Say what you want about it. Say what you want. If you look at the last time someone went against it, that really went against it, was when it was the Mets in 15 were in the World Series. When did the Royals win it? Anyway, the manager was going to pull Matt Harvey. Matt Harvey talked him out of it because he was pitching well, because he felt it, and the manager's like, all right, yeah, you're right. Went against the book, and that's the last time you really saw a team try to go against that. Try to go against, the instinct or whatever. And, it fucked over the Mets. They're still waiting on it. I mean, that was the last good year Matt Harvey had. So, anyone who's blaming Kevin Cash is a fucking moron, is what I say. And you're not gonna win if you only score one run against the Dodgers. They have too good of an offense. The fact that they managed to bring in a 24-year-old on 2 days rest was pretty impressive. But you're not gonna. Before you blame Kevin Cash, before you blame the bullpen, before you try to blame any of that, the problem was your offense. I don't care what the numbers say. I don't care what they do for you in the regular season. You're not going to win a playoff series playing the fucking sabermetrics analytics game. And that's not on Cash. That's not on anybody. That's just how it is. Anyway, the one other big thing I took from the World Series is Justin Turner got pulled. I believe it was in the 6th inning as well, when they found out he had a positive COVID test. How do you only find that out in the 6th fucking inning? That's ridiculous. If you're trying to do this whole bubble thing, if you're trying to do this whole, look at how safe we're being, how does a guy who's been in the same fucking place for 3 weeks have a positive test and you just act like nothing happened? Look, I'm not going to talk about. I'll get to my COVID thing a little later on this, but what I'm saying is, could the bubble be complete and utter horseshit? Could your testing be complete and utter horseshit? How do you find out halfway through a fucking game that someone playing in the game tested positive? How long does it take to get a test back? I mean, you had basically, we'll say 18 hours to get a test and get it back in. I mean, 18 hours is the maximum. You had at least 18 hours to do it. Does it take that fucking long to figure this shit out? It just baffles me. Yeah, so Justin Turner got pulled after COVID. Then what the fuck have we been doing this whole goddamn time? If the playoffs, have these bubble systems and it's working and all this stuff, obviously it's not working that fucking good. Obviously you're not doing it well enough. The NHL and the NBA managed to do it. I mean, granted, they only had their playoffs that they were doing rather than, a full season plus, or I guess partial season and playoffs. But NHL and NBA managed to do it. What the fuck is wrong with baseball? Why can't they do it? And then the other question is, how does a guy get let on the field if he had a positive COVID test before the game? He had it at some point before the game. They just found it out. But if you've taken if you're trying to be as safe as possible, why do you let anyone on the field before the latest test comes in? It just makes no goddamn sense to me. And like, again, I'm going to get to my COVID shit a little later, but it's just, if we're going to go through all this goddamn nonsense, at least show something. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it was done wrong, or whatever you have. Anyway, let me, this just came to my head. What's going to happen when, I would like to see, and hopefully if my fat ass can get up and do this, within the next 7 days. You know what I'm going to do? Next Tuesday is election day. You know what? I will be on here while the election results are coming in. That is a fantastic idea. So give me a fucking time frame to do it. So anyway, if you look at the World Series celebration, it's all their players, all their significant others, all their wives, all their kids running around there, some with masks, some without. They have been in close contact with a guy who just tested positive for COVID. Where's the outrage for them? Where's the outrage for Clayton Kershaw with his, infant child down there running around with, one of his, good teammates testing positive for it? I would like to know what is going to come with all that. Is there going to be, I don't know what side's going to be arguing it. I don't know if it's going to be a side who's arguing it, if it's just, I would like to know if there's any sort of argument that comes with that. So I think that's all I got on the World Series. I wish I could hate bets. Seager, you're getting married. Congrats or condolences. I don't know. You can leave a comment on my Twitter or my Instagram of what you think about a guy who just won the World Series MVP. Not married yet, but is going to pull the trigger in LA. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to work well with me. But since the World Series didn't blow my tits off, or it didn't work out the way, I did finally watch the Australian Rules Football League Grand Final between the Richmond Tigers and the Geelong Cats. Oh, before I jump into that real quick, what I want to say is I'm going to keep looking into this because football is going to be the decider. But you have an LA NBA team, LA MLB team, an NHL Tampa Bay team, and the only other team who had a chance to win the World Series was Tampa Bay. If a Tampa Bay or LA team wins in the NFL, there's something going on, and we got to follow the money. We got to figure out why. Where is the money going? Who's benefiting from these? I mean, Tampa, LA. Let's follow the money here. Now, I understand that this may rub some people the wrong way, and the wrong people may be hearing this. But I will let it go if an LA or Tampa Bay team doesn't have a chance to win the Super Bowl. If they do, then there's going to be a bit of an issue in my head. So, anyway, going back to the AFL, Richmond Tigers versus the Geelong Cats. Basically their Super Bowl, and I am all in on Australian rules football. I am there. I've been, since I found out that there was an American playing for Collingwood about 3 years ago. I found that out. I've been trying to be a fan, but now Fox Sports, their two channels, FS1, FS2, are showing AFL all over the place. I've been watching it quite a bit. I am all in. And here's what sold me is, by the way, congratulations to the Richmond Cats. The Richmond Cats. They beat the Geelong Tigers. I really had no rooting interest in it until afterwards when I realized that there was a guy, one of the main players on Geelong was last name Duncan. So Geelong is my second favorite team, minus the American. But yeah, Richmond won it, and it was they were getting their ass handed to them in the first half, and then they just came out and went nuts in the second half. So that was pretty cool. But here's what makes it awesome, and I shared this on my personal Facebook, and I'll go ahead and tweet about at C Squared Hour. I'll tweet out these videos that I'm talking about right now. You had two guys get knocked the fuck out in the same game, and both of them just got fucking murdered. One of them basically got punched in the jaw and was out before he hit the ground. The other one jumped up, got a shoulder in the jaw, and then fucking hit his head on the way down. And the funny thing was, I forget the guy's name, but he was one of the big thing. It was his last game, whatever, what have you, in the AFL, and he's, future Hall of Fame or whatever. He fucked up his shoulder on the same play where the guy got knocked out. There was one guy around the guy who got knocked out, but the cameras and all the training staff were around the guy who fucked up his shoulder. It's like Australia realized, hey, head injuries are more dangerous than shoulder injuries, but what makes better TV? Let's get this bald motherfucker back on the field, or pitch, or whatever they call it in Australia. But anyway, any championship game that has two guys from in the same game get knocked the fuck out, all right by me. You know what's really, going back to it, what's really upsetting is I've been blowing the fucking AFL horn from Washington State up here since I really started all 10 episodes I've done, or whatever the fuck I've done. I've been blowing the AFL horn here. Australia was one of my 10 people in India are listening to me, but only one from Australia. Guys, I'm talking about your game. I'm trying, man. Throw a guy a bone here. But yeah, any sport where two guys get knocked out in the final and it doesn't even hit the main page of the AFL news or whatever. If the Ryan Shazier hit happened in the Super Bowl, there would still be fucking protests about football. And the AFL, that's just part of the fucking game, and I love it. Now, with that being said, I have found that there is a United States Australian rules football league. They have teams all over the country who play, different divisions and things like that. There's a Seattle team. I think last time, COVID fucked this all up. Now, if anyone's listening who knows anyone who's involved with United States AFL, please have them get in contact with me. I have figured out that I am just based on the small amount of information I have, which is cities and team names, I'm a Baltimore Dockers fan. The U.S. AFL team in Baltimore is called the Dockers. obviously having to do with all the shipping and stuff. I mean, we've all seen The Wire, having to do with all that. But through and through, I decided that after seeing that, and after much deliberation with people close to me, I decided that I am going to be a full-fledged docker. I know there are certain family members that are around here that are going to be looking for Christmas ideas. If you go to the Baltimore Dockers website, they have a full team store, and I mean cheaper prices than you're going to get, in a lot of sports teams. If you go look for shit, even if you go look for AAF stuff, which still I gotta get some of my Salt Lake Stallions merch, but there's plenty of Baltimore Dockers, especially there's a new for 2020 shirt that was only for $18. So I know people are going to be looking for Christmas ideas, and we're going to have gift exchanges, we're going to have, Secret Santas and all that. I know a lot of the people who I would get as a Secret Santa actually do listen to this. So just remember, the Baltimore Dockers. Unless you want to pay the $23 to have a fucking Collingwood hat shipped from Australia, because, obviously I'm, that's who I run with in the real AFL. So the Baltimore Dockers, they're my team. I am a full-fledged Docker. I am a Docker supporter. You hear that, Baltimore? I support the Dockers. All right, enough with sports. That's all I really have. NHL's over. They did a draft. Who the fuck knows? NHL draft's a lot like the MLB draft, where you don't know what's going on with it till the next. Carter Hart's the fucking next. The second cutting. Bernie Perrant, he wasn't taken until the second round. So it's a lot like the MLB draft. We can sit there and talk, whatever. But football, now that baseball's over, I'm gonna finally start watching it. So that's all I got. My fantasy team's getting slightly better. Here's something I found very interesting. And if you know me personally on Facebook, as soon as it happened, I sent out the picture. I will be sending it out on Instagram, and I'll tweet it from both my personal account and my show account. They go through the stands, and they show the main public owner of the LA Dodgers, which is Magic Johnson. They show him on the screen. What do we know about? What's the first thing you think of when you think of Magic Johnson? Showtime Lakers. What's the second thing you think of? Dream Team. What's the third thing you think of? AIDS. Now, they show Magic Johnson in the stands, surrounded by a bunch of other Dodgers fans and everything like that. In this picture, Magic Johnson is the only one not wearing a fucking mask. Here's what I've decided. Masks are clearly a fucking hoax. I don't know who's standing to make money. There's the cotton industry, there's the fucking medical supply industry, there's all this sorts of shit. Maybe the medical supply industry is worried about how their costs are going to go down with whoever wins the election. Masks are clearly a fucking hoax, all right? The one guy in this country who knows more about viruses than anybody else decides not to wear a mask. Obviously, the mask thing is a hoax. Correct. Am I going to take the word of some douchebag, quote-unquote, doctor who can't even get a pitch across home plate? Or am I going to take the word of a guy who caught HIV and gained weight? That isn't allowed to happen, yet he managed to do it. Magic Johnson's probably sitting there looking at us, just shaking his head, like, you fucking pussies. Like, the virus is going around, and I wasn't gloving up for all this NBA strange, and you're gonna glove up, or you're gonna mask up because of a couple people might stand a little too close to you. If Magic Johnson feels okay not wearing a mask, that's who I'm gonna go with. Again, I've had no problems wearing a mask. I've had no issue with it at all. I don't give a fuck. I don't know if it's helping or hurting. I'm not an expert. I'm not a doctor. Who am I to say? If it makes people feel better, it's no skin off my tits, right? However, the foremost expert on viruses, in my opinion, does not think you need to wear a mask. So, after seeing that, I think the whole mask thing is a hoax. Throw science at me about Jesus Christ. I look up, it's the same goddamn commercial. The fucking muscled up black guy with his shirt. I don't know. The problem is, I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyway, I don't care what doctors say. I don't care what experts say. I don't care what your thing is. I believe, just by what I know, the foremost expert in infectious diseases, infectious viruses, is Magic Johnson. If he doesn't feel the need to wear the mask, then fuck it. I don't feel the need to wear a mask. You can argue facts with me all you want, but my logic is sound. And there is no one on the face of the earth who can argue with my logic. If you do, you are just an uneducated douche nozzle. What I want to talk about... Oh, yeah. I had a lot... See, unfortunately, I need to start doing this once a week because 2 weeks ago, the Lopez-Lomachenko fight happened. And Lopez won by unanimous decision, which I 100% agree with. I thought Lomachenko started a bit too late. If Lomachenko started later in the fight, I don't have a lot of time, so I can't really go into this too much. If he started earlier with what he was doing, he probably would have won the fight. Here's the problem. Is one judge had it a complete blowout for Lopez, which is goddamn impossible watching the fight. One of the judges had it. Guess which judge that was? I'll give you 3 guesses. You done? It was the female. It was the broad who judged it completely out of whack. I mean, Andre Ward was on the coverage. He had it as a draw, and I just think that's because he's a commie. He's from Oakland, so obviously, liberal, commie, what have you. But the lady is the one that they all disagreed with. The lady. So here's what my idea is. And it's really sad to say this because, she's been around boxing her whole life, and her dad's the famous Harold Letterman. All right, Jim. But maybe there's some jobs broads can't do. Going back, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but going back to the whole COVID and the mask thing, I finally watched the second presidential debate. Whoa, before I go into that, here's what I found out just yesterday afternoon. I dropped my vote off at the drop box at the post office like everyone else. I look online. My vote was rejected by the county auditor. For some reason, my vote didn't get counted the way everyone else's did. So here's what I think happened. Either one of my 13 listeners works in City Hall and knows that I'm too drunk and or stupid to have my vote counted, or they know I'm a problem going against the quote-unquote establishment. I don't know. Anyway, all I know is that, of course, my vote didn't count. I've been sitting here for the last 10 episodes spouting off all my stupid shit and drunkenly to anybody who would listen at a bar my stupid shit, and someone must have been finally listening because my vote didn't count. Here's the biggest problem. Well, here's the thing I think happened is I used a Dropbox at a library. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but why the fuck do we still have libraries? I mean, Christ, if you want to talk about dumbass government spending, let's start there. We're filling government buildings with fucking books still. I mean, I'm old, dumb, and epileptic, so I still read books. I'm still not a big fan of e-readers, but the fact that we still have buildings paid for by the government that are to rent books, I mean, come on, you're killing me here. So that's probably my problem. I don't know. So apparently, I've been saying it for forever, especially with where I live in the state that I'm in, and where the way our state, my vote never did count, but now I finally got proof of it. I finally saw in writing that, hey, guess what? Your vote doesn't count. So if anyone's wondering about voter suppression and all this, everyone who's whining about voter suppression and voting, guess what? None of you have any bitch, because my argument for voter suppression is official. It is in writing. I can show anyone the document that my vote has been suppressed. Why? Do I say too much? Do I annoy too many people? Are there too many people in the local, state, or national government that know who I am, that are hearing this, that are worried about what I'm gonna vote for? Or is it because I sign my signature like a 12-year-old kid with Parkinson's disease? It could be the second one, but I'm not in the government, so I'm gonna go find out what happened. I'll by next Tuesday, I'm definitely gonna, and I may have a special guest for that show, but I will have kind of the end of the night election roundup where, but I'll let you know how my battle with the government to get my vote counted. Again, anyone who wants to make an argument that their vote doesn't count can go fuck themselves, or they can come to me. I will help you with that because I have actual proof that my vote has been suppressed. I want to shout out to both my brother-in-law and my aunt for being right on top of it for me, for knowing that I would be a target of this nonsense, and they looked into it for me, and I very much appreciate it. And to my aunt, I'm sorry my sarcasm didn't carry over the phone today, but, I do appreciate her, and, I mean, that's what I got here. So here's there we are, about 15 minutes, my dog's fucking with me. Tana, it's okay, buds. Alright, so, I finally listened to watched the last debate. Here's what I think, though. And just recently in Spokane, someone got in trouble for hiding mail from back in 2018 to 2019. Here's all this nonsense against the post office, against it, and I have my thing against post office and whatnot. But for them calling the post office corrupt, you know who's saying that? FedEx. FedEx is not getting enough of the online business, and they don't have the power to go after the private company of UPS, so they go after the post office. So if I really want to look into it, and especially the anti-voting thing, that's coming, in my opinion, from FedEx. So I don't have a whole lot on the last debate because, I mean, quite honestly, there wasn't much to go with. Biden blew his fucking chance. Trump, every time, is gonna alpha you in the room. Trump is more of an alpha male than you are. That's what's gonna happen. So what do is they set up this debate to help you and, I mean, quite honestly, the American people who are watching this debate by saying, hey, look, we'll give you 2 minutes and we'll cut this fucker's mic off. So while you sit there and you spout off what you have to say, you will get erupted like you had. And what does the douchebag do? Talks in fucking sounds bites, fucking doesn't answer one of the questions that this broad from NBC News has, and he had the perfect opportunity. He said, well, how are we going to pay for this? Are you going to have to tax people? Yes. Are you going to pay for medical? Yes. How are you going to do that? Well, I think this is a human right. How the fuck are you going to do this? Trump didn't win any voters, obviously, with the last debate. He didn't say shit worthwhile, and he didn't lose voters because anything he said, kind of went along with the MAGA lines, and it just, I don't know. The moderator, again, as opposed to Chris Wallace, where Chris Wallace is trying to keep him on track, fucking the moderator, she was trying so fucking hard to get one of them to answer a question. Just answer a goddamn question. How are you going to pay for this? Well, we're going to. How? And it's hilarious that we talk about the news media, being so liberal and everything. I'm from Spokane, Washington. The Spokane paper endorsed Trump for president. And they said it's for the simple fact that, they said, well, both with our governor's race, because our governor's race is a fucking gong show too, but it's the lesser of the two evils. They think that all these proposals that Biden has are going to harm our economy more than they're going to benefit our society. So I saw this hashtag flying around. Oh, shit, I'm down to these beers. Saw this hashtag flying around where they're trying to get a boycott spokesman review going around, and it just wasn't catching hold. I think I saw 2 hashtags with that. It was a relatively realistic opinion. I enjoyed it, but it's nice to see a major news outlet, and I mean, say what you want, but the Spokesman Review is the major outlet in Eastern Washington. So, so for a third of the Washington vote, that's what comes up. So, yeah, I just thought Biden blew his chance at the election. He had his opportunity there. They set up the rules. They're like, okay. And I'm not saying these rules were wrong. I'm not saying that this isn't how it should have been. But they set up the rules to basically say, like, look, here, Joe. Here's how you're going to go. Is you obviously can't alpha him, so if you guys are talking over each other, he's going to win. But we think you have a chance of winning over. And that's another. Anyway, we think you have a chance of winning over people if you're allowed the 2 minutes to talk uninterrupted. He was allowed that, and he didn't answer one goddamn fucking question, which annoys the shit out of me. I'm sitting there with my fucking liberal ass fucking wife who is sitting there yelling about Trump, and then, Biden would say something and I would just say, well, there's that. And she's getting pissed off for the same thing. So, Biden, you fucked it up. And I'm going to go on record and say Trump's winning again. I don't care what the poll numbers say. They didn't work out that well last time. You didn't get enough people to jump ship. And you had your chance to do it, Joe. You had your chance to throw real ideas out there, real thing, and you just fucking talked in sound bites. I mean, if you really want to go into it, you talked in Kamala Harris's sound bites, but if you really want, you had your chance to do it. And I think this last debate, I don't think the debate necessarily cost the election. I'm not sure how many people actually watched it, but I think the way it was handled and the way that everyone knows everything was handled cost him the election. I think he could have, called Saddam Hussein the second coming of Christ and called, I don't know, Betsy Ross a Nazi supporter or whatever. I think he could have done that, but if he did it in a forceful sort of way, I think it would have been better for them than what he fucking did. I don't know. It's like Sleepy Joe, you had your chance and you fucked it up. I mean, just answer one goddamn question. I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, you know what this country is begging for? Everyone I talk to, everyone I listen to, everyone's begging for someone to just sit there and say, that's a good question. Here's my opinion on it. Or, here's a good question. I'm not sure, but I'm going to make sure my cabinet has... I'm going to make sure to get these people involved with it. Or, hey, I'm not a disease expert, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring disease experts from not only across the country, but around the world together to come up with something. I'm not a climate scientist, but you know what? I'm going to bring people across. It's like the Paris Accord was the big thing. The Paris Accord is such a fucking joke, and I'll get into that later if anyone listens this far into it. But yeah, let's just the fact that we pulled out of that, I don't mind that one bit, and the fact that anyone in the world could argue about us pulling out of the Paris Accord, it just fucking baffles me. All right, so we're coming up on the hour. I did a lot of rambling. I actually talked more about the World Series than I thought I was going to. So let me go through here. Oh, before I finish up, and hopefully enough people listen to this long enough, I want to shout out my good friend and semi-sister, Brittany. She actually hooked me up with the microphone stand that I'm using right now that is making everything go much better. And quite honestly, one of my best and longest friends of all time. I'm glad she hooked me up with this, and this is making everything sound so much better. I also want to end this by shouting out my good buddy Tyler for willing to train me for the upcoming fight with Randy if he ever agrees to it. My good buddy Mitch, who's willing to promote it. Now, let's look through here. Let me look through my list. If I missed anything, did all that. I also want to thank Chris for doing that grocery store protest for me. Very nice. The Mayan calendar thing, I could talk about that next time. World Series, my vote didn't count. Yeah. Again, I use Dropbox at the library. That's what I get, right? AFL Grand Final. Anyway, all of my sports fans and a lot of my listeners who I know personally, I've shown, the AFL clips, and you guys are, I'm going to make you guys fans, whether you like it or not, but AFL is the shit. So make sure you stay with it, and I'm a Collingwood fan in Australia, and I'm a Baltimore Docker for life up here in the U.S. So, shout out Brittany, shout out Mitch, shout out Tyler, Randy, lace them up. And beyond that, send me your beer recommendations, Twitter, Instagram. I'm going to try to be a little more active on those. No promises, because even personally, I suck at social media, so trying to do it for a second one. But look for me next Tuesday. I may have a special guest. I may not. But I will be on at either the end of the vote tallying or after it's already announced. But you will be hearing my analysis of the election results semi-live. You'll hear them the day afterwards, but you'll hear what I have going. So until next time, just keep on keeping on.